Hey there, friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Rebecca Austin, and on this channel, we talk about all things Kajabi, marketing, and growing your online business. Now, if your website is not functioning the way that you feel like it should, and you're not getting the sales that you know you could be getting, you may be making one of these top mistakes, and that's what we're going to talk about in this lesson today. Be sure to stay to the end because the last one may surprise you, and it's one of the top mistakes that a lot of my coaching clients are making when they first come to me and we start fixing things on the website and the sales funnels. So the first thing that we want to look at, number one, the top mistake that I see on your website strategies and why you may not be getting the sales that you know you could be getting with your program, whether you're an online entrepreneur, a coach, knowledge commerce, anything like that. And a lot of these strategies apply also to brick and mortar type businesses. Is when somebody comes to your website, is there a clearly defined client journey? And what I mean by that is when somebody comes to your website, do you already ahead of time, have you taken time to map out where they are going to go, where they need to go next in order to achieve what it is that you want them to achieve? So number one, have you thought about what exactly do you want someone to do when they come to your site? Now, the obvious answer to that typically is going to be, well, I want them to buy something. And if that's the case, are you making it very clear that is the objective and what the value is and why they would want to consider purchasing from you? If your number one objective is to get them on a call so that eventually you can schedule them or sell something or a service or that kind of thing, then it needs to be very clear to someone coming to your site that that is the primary objective. So we want to make sure that our navigation, our design, everything around the site is super clear and that the messaging is clear on what is the return, the ROI, so to speak, for someone coming to your site on why they should want to engage with you and what exactly it is that they should be doing and where to click and how to accomplish what it is that you're saying on your website. So that is mistake number one. And that is that you haven't really mapped out what it is that you want them to accomplish. And number two, on that same mistake is that you haven't actually mapped out the journey of where they should go so that they can achieve that particular outcome. The second big mistake that I see is one that's near and dear to my heart because it's the long-term secret to grow. Because statistically speaking, a lot of times people need more than one touch point to make a decision to buy. And we're putting all this effort into driving traffic to our website through our marketing efforts that we want to make sure that we're maximizing and capitalizing on engaging with that person when they do come to your website. And how do we do that so that we can engage with them further past the time that they visit that first touch point? And that is through your invitation, your lead magnets, your various things that you do to get their name and email address, and then have a follow-up strategy with them so that you can build a relationship and build the communication so that they know exactly what it is that you do and why they should want to engage with you further, as well as directing them back to your primary objective, which is your number one goal, what it is that you're trying to sell to them. So that is mistake number two, is that we're not seeing enough or the proper strategy on engagement to capture name and email addresses. And if you are capturing name and email addresses, say you do have a free offer on your site, there's a very good chance that there's not the right strategy behind it if you're not making conversions off of that particular lead magnet. Number three top mistake that we see is navigation. So this kind of goes along with our mistake number one, where we're talking about the client journey, but I go a little bit deeper on this one because a lot of times when I'm looking at a website on one of my website reviews and going through and creating reports on how to improve your website, one of the main things is that a lot of times I see where people are not using their navigation menus strategically. We tend to think along the lines of what everybody else is doing, and so this must be the best way of doing it without fully understanding why they're doing it. And just because everybody else is doing it doesn't necessarily make it the most effective strategy, especially when you're focusing on specific industries and you really want to be able to control the narrative on where someone goes when they come to your website. So when it comes to navigation, and when I say navigation, I mean primarily your header menu, your footer menu, or any other navigation type guides on how they should navigate through your website. So for example, example, if you're doing marketing efforts and you're sending someone to a lead magnet opt-in page or a sales page, because typically, as a side note, navigation-wise, we rarely are going to market to your homepage, unless, of course, there's some specific reasoning why, or if you have a brand new site and the homepage is your sales page. So that, of course, is a topic for another day where we can go much deeper into that. But essentially, when we're talking about marketing that drives traffic to a designated page, how are we controlling the options that we give them if for some reason they're waning on their interest and they're not quite sure where they want to go next? Or we're sending them from our marketing to a blog article as a slow warm up and an opportunity to engage with you with a snippet of free information. And we want to invite them then to engage with us further. So we want to be thinking about what navigation options are strategic on what they need to see and where they would want to go next. So for example, one of the things that I see a lot in a navigation is in your header navigation, there will be this list of options with drop-down menus, and you've got 15 different pages that they can go to see, and each one of those pages is something different, a new idea or a different option or about us or our bio, our mission statement, those kind of things where it's getting to know you, but it's not necessarily taking them on a journey. So I like to say that your main navigation should be those primary objectives, those big things that we really want to point out and highlight and put in neon that makes it really easy for them to see and easy for them to navigate to. Then the footer menu is where I personally like to put a lot more options that are your secondary type things. So for example, a contact us or an about us page, if it makes sense strategically for your website, tends to do better on a footer because of the way that people navigate a website. And if they're looking for you to contact you, they're going to look for it. They're going to find it. And if they're not finding it in the header menu, they're going to typically scroll down and look for it in the footer. So your header menu then can be reserved for some of those primary things, like you're getting them to your primary sales page and making it easy. The other one is making sure it's easy to log in for your members. We want to make it super easy for someone who's already a member to find and access their resources and know how to get into your library if you're selling online courses or coaching or things like that. So think a little bit on and map out your header menu and your footer menu so that you're using it much more strategically and including on that footer menu some of the things that might make sense in addition to that's not a primary call to action, but a very valuable secondary call to action, including things like become an affiliate or your terms and conditions privacy policy, those legalese, compliance type things that are very important not to overlook. Those are really good in a footer. Not to mention things like logging in is also good there too if you don't put it on the header, but make sure your header and your footer has strategic navigation rather than just putting everything in one place and then having too many choices for people to try and figure out where they're supposed to go next. Now, the other mistake that we see a lot of times is that your messaging is not necessarily engaging with your audience. So we're trying to be too salesy, or you're just throwing things out there that you think your audience might be interested without really going deep into connecting with your audience on what is it that you help them with. How do you serve them? What's the value for them? And what is it that you can do for them that pulls them in and gets their attention? Using the top part of the page very strategically. So along those same lines is where I see big pictures at the very top, but it doesn't really describe anything about your website, who you are, what you offer, what they're supposed to do, what call to action there is, what's in it for them. Why should they spend any more time on your site? So if you have a big video at the top or a huge image with a logo or a picture of you or something like that, it may look really pretty from a design or aesthetics perspective, but from a strategy perspective and a connecting with your audience, it's just not cutting it. It's not connecting, engaging, and drawing the curiosity and the interest of your target audience, and at least getting them to stay stay past the average 6 seconds of somebody to just peruse and see if it's worth their time. And that is actually an old statistic. I'm not even sure what the new statistic is on how much time that somebody is actually typically spending on a site before we lose them. You want to keep them to where they're engaged enough that they want to continue scrolling and learn more about who you are. Then you combine that with your client journey mapped out that we talked about in point number 1. We now have a better chance of connecting with our audience and engaging with them, which leads us to the final top mistake that I see way too often. And this is the big one that I saved the best for last. And that is all too often I see that people are trying to sell their products, programs, courses, or services instead of selling what it is that you do for people. So if you are a course creator or a coach and you're selling a coaching package, or you're selling a course, or you're selling a membership, we don't want to sell a course on your website. What you're doing is you're selling transformations. You're selling solutions to a problem. You're selling a benefit. You're selling a service that can make their life better in some way. And we want to focus our messaging and how we control the navigation and we control the engagement. And all of the message that we put around that is around specifically the emotion of what you can do for them. How do you solve a problem? How do you make their life better? How do you help them? And when you can take that, all of those pieces that we've talked about in the very brief short video, we've just kind of touched on some of the top things, including making sure you have a clear navigation for a client journey, making sure that you have a lead capture that connects and engages with your audience with a follow-up sequence so that you can continue the relationship building, making sure that you're using your navigation strategically so that, again, going back combined a little bit with our concept number 1 of having a clear client journey, very easy to understand what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, why they're supposed to do it, along with some really engaging messaging that is not selling your program, service, or course, but connecting with them on an emotional level through our messaging to let them know that you're here to serve, you're here to help, you're here to make their lives better. And when you can combine all of those, then magic starts to happen and you can start to see some significantly higher results and better improvements and better conversions for your website. So if that is something that's interesting to you and you'd like to learn more about this, I invite you to jump on over to our website at striveforsavvy.com, where we have lots of really great resources for you and more information along these lines, including our program called Conversion Code, where we go even deeper into all of the aspects of how to increase conversions and improve sales on your program. And I also invite you, if you are serious about growing your online business and improving your marketing skills, improving your messaging, and creating that perfect website that increases conversions, like and subscribe so that you get those notifications and you can stay on top of the latest videos that we're posting to help you grow your business. As you start implementing the tips that we put in this video and avoiding the mistakes and making some changes in your website, drop a comment below and let me know what your biggest takeaways are and which changes that you made and saw the biggest results. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video where we'll talk more about website strategy and improving your Kajabi.